I'd like to call to order the Genoa Township Board meeting of December 7th, 2020. If we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I also, before we move on, I wonder if we could, as December 7th is Pearl Harbor Day, I would like to honor all of those brave souls that fought for us and lost their lives for us. If we could just have a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Let us move to the call to the public. If anyone wishes to address the board, please call in. And we will wait here for a few minutes or a minute or so just to see if we can get anybody to call in because there is a delay. Mike, do we see anything?
We do not, sir.
Wait another minute or so here. And did I say before, I just love technology? All righty, hearing none, let's move on to the consent agenda, items 1 and 2.
Flo moves approval of the consent agenda.
Support.
Who is the support?
Jim Mortensen. The Honorable Jim Mortensen.
So when we have the motion support, if you just mention your name, just in case, because some things we all come through a little fuzzy here. So we have a motion and support on the consent agenda. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Let us move on to the regular agenda. That would be items 3 through 5, plus the correspondence member discussion.
Flo moves approval.
Support, Robin Hunt.
We have Lowe and Hunt. Motion and support. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I'm sorry, there was a delay. Is it, could we have that?
Yes, thank you.
We have Lowe and Hunt for the motion and support. All in favor again signify by saying
Aye.
Aye.
opposed. Yeah, there wasn't a delay that time. Very good. We now have a regular agenda. Let us move to item number 3. This is the consideration of a recommendation for approval of a final PUD site plan and environmental impact assessment for the Premier Genoa Planned Unit Development Phase 1 involving a 37,275 square foot climate-controlled indoor storage building and related site improvement. This is located at 4525 and 4433 East Grand River at the northwest corner of Grand River Avenue and Lawson Drive. The request is petitioned by PMH Realty LLC. Is there any comments, questions?
Well, I understand there's no changes since we saw this the last time. The only exception is they're only building the storage and improving the gas station. The other two buildings are not being pursued at this time, correct?
That is my understanding also.
Yeah, this is phase one. I'm not sure it's different than you. I thought it was I recall it was always 3 phases. And this is the first phase, the storage center and modernizing the gas station.
Excuse me.
Righty. We have 2 items to vote on. First, item A would be the disposition of the impact assessment dated 8/5/20 and revised 9/28/20.
Slow moves approval.
Or Croft.
We have a motion and support.
Do we have, can you tell me who said that? It's cutting in and out on my speaker.
Slow moved approval.
Diana?
Yes.
And who was the
Croft
support?
for the support.
Robin?
No,
Thank you.
Croft.
Croft.
Oh, Terry Croft. Thank you.
Yes.
Sure.
So we should have a motion and support. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. And item B, this would be the disposition of the final PUD site plan dated 11/19/20.
Move approval with the 4 conditions listed in Kelly Van Marter's memo dated December 1.
Slow support.
We have a motion support. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 4. This is the consideration of a request to change authorization for Genoa 2019-20 Grand River Sidewalk Construction Phase Engineering as submitted by Tetra Tech in the amount of $46,660. Is there a motion?
Well, that, these times are pretty. fun.
Is there a motion?
I will move approval. 2019 Grand River Sidewalk Project as presented by Tetra Tech.
I don't know who it is.
It's Diana.
Thank you.
Is there support?
Morton's in support.
Martin's in support. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The clock opposed, but we still made it pass.
Who opposed it?
Carries.
Nobody.
I don't know what's going on, but it's cutting in and out, in and out, in and out, like static.
You guys are.
Is anyone else having that problem?
No.
Doesn't it get better if we all mute when we're not talking?
That would be a good idea if everybody muted while not talking. And it does sound better on YouTube, but for some reason or other, Zoom seems to be overloaded or something. Not sure what's going on, but it is a little choppy.
Would agree with that. So the next item on the agenda is the discussion of the 2021 to 2025 recreation plan. If I'm not mistaken, do we have some folks coming on to help with that discussion?
Yes, good evening. This is Jill Boehm. I'm with Gipfels Webster, and we have submitted for your review our draft, a working draft of the 2021 to 2025 recreation plan. If I can share my screen, I can walk you through that real quick. And I know that you like to go through things very quickly. You've done a great job so far, even despite your electronic meeting situation. I would just like to reassure you, you're doing a fine job. I am attending lots of these, and they all have a little bit of glitch from time to time, but people manage to get through it just fine. So what we have here, and we sent it ahead, and I hope that you had a chance to look at it. I just wanted to kind of walk you through the document quickly. You'll see that we have an introduction section. The whole plan follows the format of the Michigan Department of Natural Resources guidelines for for park and recreation plans. We have the introduction, we have a community profile, which just gives a little bit of background about the community, kind of the composition of your population, just to get an idea of where people are and what they might be needing in terms of recreation. We do have some maps in here that identify some of the watershed areas and the wetlands and things. We also, it's important for us to understand the organizational structure of the township as it relates to the ongoing maintenance of your park and your recreation opportunities, as well as a budget for the upcoming years. The recreation inventory includes not only your parks, but some of the other facilities that are within an easy reach of your township residents. Your park is beautiful, and I've spent some time out there, as well as some of the other parks that are located in the region. So again, we have in the maps here, the local parks. We also do consider that school facilities are also good recreation opportunities for those in the community, and they might be a little bit more evenly distributed throughout the community, making them a little bit more accessible as well. And we think that's a good resource to highlight in terms of local recreation. And then we also show the regional recreation opportunities that you have in the township, which are substantial. We have an updated map. We had sent a version of this on Friday, but we needed to make some clarifications about which maps were the township maps and which were county maps. And so you'll see we've updated that map on page 28, and we'll make sure that you get a current version of this. When we get to the recreation analysis, there's not really a one set standard that should apply to every community. And we tap into a bunch of different kinds of resources to identify what might be appropriate in your community, taking into account your population, their location throughout the community, and your ability to connect the parks to each other and have ongoing maintenance of these facilities. So those are all important considerations. So we've got a couple of tables that describe that. And we also have a park service area that you may have noted on page 35, where we look at the service areas within a half a mile or a 3-mile radius of those parks and schools that you have, to show how much of the community is covered with some access to recreation facilities. And most, I would say 3/4 of the community is. There may be some areas of opportunity here on the west end of the community. We still have the story map. There's an image here from that. This is still up on and available for people to look at. It's a little bit of information about the township park and the process that we are going through. And then it also asked a survey, and we had over 100 people respond to this survey, and we have some of the findings included here. And then just some examples of some of the things that people talked about expressing interest in, and a little bit of analysis. So the goals and objectives, these are largely from your previous plan, which was done in 2002. We updated them to be more current, considering that you did acquire the township park and have had that developed over the last several years. What you don't have is this page here. Let me see if I can just go back to one page. This is the next page. And we had the opportunity to, ooh, that's probably too much, to add in some of the action strategies. So I wanted to just run through these briefly with you, get some feedback, because what we'd like to do is submit this plan for the DNR by February 1st, which is the deadline for a plan to be consistent and approved from 2021 to 2025. To do that means you have to adopt it in January. And before you can adopt it, you have to hold the public hearing, which can be at the same meeting. But there's a 30-day review period that's required to have this available to the public for their review and any comments they may have. So doing that means that we really have to get this available to the community by the 13th of December, just a few days from now. Have that up and running. And then I believe the plan was to have the meeting at your January, I believe it was a special meeting on January 20th, where we would hold the public hearing, you would hold a public hearing and then take action. And then we can get it submitted to the DNR. So it's a little bit about the process behind this. Some of the action strategies, they're very simple because we know that the primary action strategy is the acquisition of additional parkland adjacent to the township park. So that one's at the top. Other things that came up during the public input process were the potential for a dog park or some water and splash features primarily for kids, but I've seen an adult run through one of those splash features from time to time as well. These aren't suggesting that you have to do those over the next 5 years, which is the period in which this plan covers, but it's suggesting that you could explore those opportunities. So where would we put a dog park, for example? Where would we put a water feature at the township park? How much do those cost? Is that something that the township can afford to do over time? Not only with the cost of construction or installation, but also ongoing maintenance. And so we put that into the plan as something to research over the next several years, but not necessarily meaning that 5 years from now, we're going to have a splash pad in a dog park. We may, but we may not. We may just have been to the point where we're ready to then put that into the next document. Adult activity equipment might be something else that's worth exploring. You've got a great playground for the kids, but a lot of older adults or parents or grandparents may be wanting to use some equipment there as well. And there's a variety of different things that you could put in to serve those folks and their needs. Expanding the trails in and around the township park and then connecting to the township park as much as possible would be another one that we've heard in conjunction with the public input. And then exploring how the township park can be further enhanced for Four Seasons activity. You do have the sledding hill, you've got the heated restrooms, but are there other things that the township could be doing to make this a draw for more of the year? Especially now, I think the pandemic and being forced to be inside has really given people that desire to be outside as much as possible. And now all of a sudden it's winter and people are afraid that they're not going to have anything to do. Communities are thinking about what they can do to make their recreation more appealing on a year-round basis. So those are the few items that we had listed in the action plan. We'll be working with Kelly and Mike on those, further refining that. And if you've got any other comments or feedback, we'd appreciate that as well.
Thank you. And I want to emphasize to the board, and hopefully sooner than later, that in regard to the feedback, if you could get that information to Kelly or Mike so we can pass that on to Jill, but any kind of input from what you're hearing from constituents would be extremely beneficial. Again, some may be already on here. Secondly, is that we are currently looking at a Wednesday, January 13 special board meeting to accommodate the rec plan so that we can make sure on all of our schedules. So that was a discussion we had today. So somewhat in that range so that we are not running up against the timeline. Does anyone else have any input?
I went to it was a Zoom meeting, the county brown bag meeting. And they reviewed the county-wide trails and pathway. And Jill, have you seen that?
We have the map that was, I think, from June of 2020. So I believe that's the most current, and that is what we've
That
got
may be it.
represented.
Anyway,
we have
I guess
represented here.
largely they were talking about implementing the thing. And the one thing that struck me of many things is they're trying to figure out a way to get across US 23. And what they're looking at, and I say looking at, is some kind of pedestrian cross, as I understand it, at Maltby Road over US 23. And they're trying to tie that in with the potential addition of the third lane on US 23 from wherever it stops all the way to 96. Just,
Right around the Lee Road area,
well,
the railroad
I
track.
don't know. They weren't talking about Lee Road. They were talking about right from Maltby Road across. They say it's difficult to put up, as I understand, very difficult to put up any kind of pedestrian crossing at Lee Road with all those circles. And everything.
No, it's near there. You're talking about probably where they're trying to widen it is at the railroad tracks, which to me is, I call it near Lee Road, but it's just, yes, I think I got your area.
Anyway, that's, I think it's a great looking plan. I mean, well done.
Good, thank you. We apologize for the delay in reaching you. It's, been the COVID season, but we look forward to continuing this work with you on the rec plan, and then also getting into the township master plan, which we've been doing a lot of background work, and we're really now to the point where we're very much looking forward to getting together with the Planning Commission. We had been trying to get together with you and the Planning Commission in a joint meeting. And I know that Supervisor Rogers, you really want to do this in person. So that's been sort of our hang up, is how to get all of us together in a place where we can do that safely and within the meeting a letter of the orders and laws and such. So we are using this the best we can. We're doing this in other communities as well. But we just keep moving forward, and we'll all get through this, and we'll have nice new plans at the end of it.
Well, and I appreciate the work that you are doing, because it is cumbersome, especially when we're doing the Zoom thing. And yes, I would prefer to do something like this in person and have that conversation back and forth. Unfortunately, yes, we may have to change that. We keep praying that it's going to change and we'll be able to get back together again and get this stuff out there.
It will. It's just taking some time.
If I can interject here real quick, I just want to say thank you, Jill, for all the hard work. It looks great. With all the COVID and all the restrictions, the one thing I've been hearing a lot lately is they need more covered seating areas, since more people are trying to gather outdoors. So
that could be a good item underneath the enhancing the winter, the 4 seasons.
Yes.
Like up at the top of the sledding hill and stuff.
Yep.
Now, Jill, have you ever been asked for, say, senior exercise facilities, lazy boys with an arm thing on each side? Just asking.
I think that could be a great thing. You get your arms moving in one time, and then you can do something else and move your legs. I think that's spectacular.
Anyone else? Any comments, questions?
It must be 7 o'clock.
Yes, must be someplace. As I say, anyone else? And again, re-emphasizing, if you would kindly get some feedback in regard to this of what you're hearing or what you would like to see. I am going to put in the lazy boys, but anyways, if we could get some assistance from all you folks. Mike, do you have anything to offer?
No, just extending appreciation for the effort. I know it's not been easy, not the way we envisioned this. I remember, I think Joe was at our last real meeting before the COVID really, it was just starting when we first talked. So
That's right.
Kelly's put a lot of work in, and you know, it's still a lot of work to do, but it's going very well.
Excellent. Well, if there are no further questions, I want to thank you again, and I appreciate the report. And
Thank
let's
you.
just keep moving it downstream so we can get that target date and get everything into the appropriate.
That sounds good. And Mike, I'll work with you and Kelly to get this refined as we need to, and then we sent all the notice requirements over earlier to before the meeting started to Kelly. So I don't know if she got it. It was after 5 o'clock, I think. But the notices and yeah, 2 notices.
I will circle back with Kelly. As the supervisor mentioned, we were targeting January 13th to keep us on that schedule for the February submittal. So we'll figure that out. But there might be a little tweak on the dates there from what we had talked about. But we're under the gun to get the February deadline for the trust fund grants, which is kind of the basis for starting all this.
All right. Well, if we want to talk tomorrow, that's fine. I'll reach out in the morning.
Very good.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's move on to correspondence.
Yes, we have a November 9th letter from Waste Management. They're taking over advanced disposal, and they wanted to let us know that everything is going to run just as it did in the past.
Which path?
Hopefully. You have correspondence from concerning the refunding results summary. I think Robin can tell you about that.
Yeah, it went fantastic. We couldn't have asked for it to go better. We ended up with a 1.6 interest rate. We are saving over $600,000 on this. Greg Tatira and I spent a lot of time working on this, but it was time well spent. Greg has been crunching numbers with Ken Palka, and it does look like the debt portion that is billed on the sewer and water quarterly billing to Oak Point users, it looks like should be able to come down $10. That's not going to kick in until probably March because they have to do the rate analysis, but it's fantastic news for the users.
Congratulations, Robin.
Thank you.
You have a letter on November 16th that I wrote to all the persons that worked in the election. And I received a $6,276 grant, and we distributed that money to all those that worked. I understand there was a letter today from Rita Croft concerning the township being out of balance by as many as 25 votes. That is not correct. The township, what we had, I want to give you a quick overview. We had 1,000 new voters that registered to vote within 6 weeks before the election. We went from 16,900 voters to over 18,000. We had 5 persons that worked the election about full time before the election. We were at the counter servicing people that wanted absent voter ballots for 2 or 3 weeks before the election in order to come up with those numbers. 9,300 persons voted absent voter ballot. And the problem that we had with the Board of Canvassers, it wasn't that any of our precincts that were at the polls were out of balance. They were all really good. The problem was the vote of the absent voter counting boards. We had 9,300 voters. So more than 50% of our voters voted absent voter ballot. In the processing of those voters, we put in 20 and a half hours. When we got to the end of the evening at 1:30 in the morning, the next day, we didn't have room in the certified ballot containers to put all the ballots in. So we had to secure 3 canvas bags. And since the 3 canvas bags, they were all locked and they had seals on them. But because they were in canvas bags instead of the certified ballot containers, they were not able to recount those ballots. It doesn't mean that anybody's vote was not counted. It just means that they couldn't open them up because they weren't in the certified boxes. So if you have a question about that, give me a call, let me know. We had Comcast, they gave us 25, 40%, 66% increase in cost to our residents. I wrote a letter to Mr. Mazurek asking that they would reconsider that position. I have not heard back. This is the letter following that correspondence that I mailed to his attention to me, advising us of the increases. And then these were the calculated increases for Xfinity services and pricing, where we got the 6% and the 25% increases. You have a letter from a lady named Julia Gaman, and she, let's see, what is she talking about? The intense workload. Anyway, she sent a note thanking us for our hard work. Cromaine Library sent you their minutes. We don't usually have all this correspondence. Comcast, again, another letter talking about increases. Charter increases $5. Adam Van Hassel has Summer Ransom Cleveland sent a memo. And she is, they want fiber optic cable and fast internet in a portion of our community that we cannot service. And we've been trying to deal with this for many years. There's no way to set up a special assessment district because it's not allowed under Act 188. Your video is turned off. Wonderful. Okay, I don't know. I don't know what happened. Did you hear anything about what I said?
We could hear you.
Yeah.
Oh, you couldn't hear me because I just got a note across the screen that said my video is up.
We couldn't see you, but we could hear you.
Oh,
Yeah. Still have the
anyway,
audio.
going back to the correspondence.
It done.
We have a schedule of meetings for January to December of 2021. And we have the holidays for 2020-21. And the assessing department underwent the audit of minimum assessing requirements to make sure the department is compliant with state guidelines. And a copy of that report was attached from WRASK. Michigan State Tax. Go ahead.
If I can just interject there, this AMAR audit on assessing was a big deal. And coming back with scoring 100% is fantastic. And it's a big kudos to our assessing department.
True.
Thank you, Robin. You're right. That's a big deal.
It is a real big deal.
Okay, I guess that's the end of the correspondence. And the reason my audio is off is because I could not print the agenda, the package for tonight. It ended up at a wrong page, and so I'm going back on I'm going back to the screen that has all the correspondence on it, and I had to turn off my video.
It'll work.
Okay.
All right.
Hopefully this is the last Zoom meeting. Okay, get down, Doug.
Let's move on to member discussion. Does anyone have any items here to discuss?
Yeah, I do. The only thing is, before we move out of correspondence, I saw an email right before we came into this meeting, there was another correspondence to the board from Dan Wallahan.
I didn't see that one. that Houlihan?
Yeah,
Does it-
It came in at 5. We just have to acknowledge that, man.
So I forwarded 2 emails this evening as I received them and became aware of them. So, you know, just like we would get a letter here addressed to the township board, I forwarded it as soon as, I don't know if it's necessarily related to this meeting. They didn't ask to be called to the public. It was just correspondence. So
Okay.
I forwarded the email, and that's what I would do with anything addressed to you folks.
just make sure everybody has received it. That's all, just like all the other correspondence.
If I could just 2 things. I did mail out winter tax bills on November 30th. And I am getting several people and phone calls saying they have not received their bill. Of course, you know, out of the almost 9,000 we mail, a lot of them got them. So, but anyone out there, if you didn't get your bill,
Does that work?
remail or email or whatever you need.
I got mine.
Good, I'm glad.
I don't want mine.
I asked mine to be returned to sender.
Yeah, that doesn't work.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, you know where to find me in the office? Thanks. All righty. Anything else?
I just have a couple of things, one construction update, the concrete sidewalk installation on Grand River between Hughes Road and Lynch Carpet, the county roadside park there, is pretty much wrapping up. They're finishing up along the retaining wall. It looks great. Real finished look because we ran late in the year. Instead of doing some hot mix asphalt, driveway approaches, everything ended up concrete. So basically from the back of the sidewalk to the curb line is all concrete, and it looks like $1 million. Isabella Construction did a good job. We're wrapping up. I think this is going to be the last week. A few little tweaks here and there. The restoration, we're going to, you know, get it all in the spring, see where the grass pops back up. They put in a dormant mix, so that should start coming up in the springtime. If you've noticed, the cardboard recycling at the township hall is atrocious. People aren't following rules. If the dumpsters are full, they're throwing it next to it. And this will bear more discussion at a future time, but this is a beautiful park, and it is not the place to collect garbage, yard waste, or cardboard recycling, in my humble opinion. So we are going to be looking at alternatives, but we've tried to help people out. We're not going to do anything before the holidays, obviously, with a huge amount of cardboard, but we have had staff out there on numerous occasions on windy days picking up garbage, blowing all over the place. People see a full dumpster, they don't care. They got it in their trunk. It's getting out of their car one way or the other, so they just dump it on the pavement. So we're going to have to figure that one out together. I'm sorry.
do you have any ideas for that?
We should discontinue it. If people want to recycle cardboard, they can pay the extra money and get another bin.
Okay.
That's
Fair
the
enough.
short, unpopular answer.
Well, and we've really tried to put the word out that they have to start doing it right, or it's going to go away. They're throwing their styrofoam in there. They're throwing anything in there, which means none of it is getting recycled.
And having personally been out there picking up a lot of this stuff, these aren't all our people. You look at the Amazon addresses, we've become the county cardboard recycling spot. So township residents are paying from people from other communities to utilize that service. The boxes aren't getting broken down. So the roll-off box driver came today to change out the box, and he can't pick it up because it's so overloaded that he can't get on the road. So we've got a real issue, and it's been a mess. And we just pray for days that aren't windy because it blows all over. We've had Kelly, Greg's guys, Adam, myself out there picking up this stuff, and it's just not where it belongs. So we tried in good faith, but it's just not working. So we'll be back to you with some alternatives. I don't suggest making any changes before Christmas is done. Going into January, we'll have to come up with some alternative. The other issue, I just wanted to catch up. I sent out some emails related to some correspondence with the neighboring community. the supervisor had a phone conversation with the mayor of that community, and we were going to be following up with a meeting with the city manager, myself, the mayor, and the supervisor. So I'm not really looking at any action or additional discussion. If you've got any questions in that regard, feel free to give me a call.
I don't know if you're going to send that draft of the letter. Is that what we're discussing?
Yeah, I was trying to solicit input on that. But again, based on the supervisor's conversation with the mayor this weekend, I think it's more prudent to sit down and have a discussion, maybe using that letter as talking points, because I felt as I was drafting that it was fairly abrasive. And that's not how we usually do business. We usually drop a dime before we start setting nasty grams. So I would ask that you let us do that, and we'll come back to you if we need to.
Have you, I guess maybe that's not the point yet, but to get Joe Seward involved in this thing, if it goes beyond the meeting you're going to have with the
Yeah,
city.
I consulted with Joe briefly on this. He's aware of what the issue is.
Yeah.
And I think, we probably all share the same concerns, but let us follow up. I always like to do things, with a personal meeting before we, again, start issuing nasty grams. So
Sure,
give us some time and we'll come back to you and let you know how it's going.
sure.
That's all I have.
All righty. Anyone else? One thing I can just bring up, and I'm sure you're going to see a lot about it, is the governor spoke again this afternoon, extended for another 12 days, fully expected. I'm not so sure it's not going to go through the end of the year. So just be aware of that. We're working with staff again to figure out how to make everything work as usual. They gave us a day. Fortunately, I want to say that all the staff here has been working with all of us to try to make this thing work and keep our constituents covered, pure and simple. And I will tell you, it hasn't been easy on any of them based on all of the things that are going on, but they have done a yeoman's job in doing all of this kind of stuff. So, I've got more reading tonight. I don't know how many pages this is again, just to see if anything really changed for us, but just keep that in mind, and that we're working through it, and every day it seems to change, and we'll work through it and make sure we're taking care of everybody. That's pretty much all I have.
I've got something. The Howell Area Parks and Rec Authority received an award for being creative throughout the COVID pandemic to provide services and activities for people. So they need to be commended for this. They really went up to bat to do things that provide families activities during this time.
Excellent.
Good for them.
I know. It's very creative people.
Okay, anyone else? Hearing none, let's go on to adjournment.
I've moved to adjourn the meeting. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Same here.
I'll support and Merry Christmas.
So we have Lowe and Hunt, motion and support for the adjournment, as long as you add Merry Christmas. Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? We are